protecting and restoring soils in Europe and beyond, in line with the European Soil Deal for Europe, establishing 100 living labs and lighthouses that lead to the transition towards healthy soils by 2030. That is what the Soil Deal for Europe aims at. More details we get now from policy officer of the Soil Mission Board, Pandi Zdrouli. Where is he? Mr. Zdrouli, you get the floor. Maybe this is your microphone, please.
So this works, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Very pleased to be here. I was also in Palermo, so it's the second time that I am attending the EJP Science Soil Days. You read already the title, so there is no need to repeat it. By the way, this is a standard presentation that the Soil Bill for Europe has prepared. So we are showing this also in various events and occasions to describe what the mission is all about. And as you can see, one of the main goals is to establish these 100 living labs and lighthouses. And I will come back to describe it a little bit better what we mean by that. Has been first time I've been involved with soil-related activities in Europe for at least 20 years or more. And I never seen soils to come at this high political level to bring it together with climate change, fighting cancer, climate nutrient and smart cities, and restoring oceans and water. So it is at the very high level that finally soil reached where it deserved, actually. Now, the issue is that the EU research and innovation has to address a lot of societal needs. And as you can see it in the description, I maybe go a little bit better like this because I have a little bit of hard time to read it, and that is impossible to see. So we have to come out with the what we call it bold inspiration and measurable goals to make the direct impact at society and policy making in order to meet actually what we say the expectation of all European-wide citizens. So the Commission has identified these five missions, and one of them is the Soil Deal for Europe. Why a EU soil mission? And actually, in this context where much of the audience is soil scientists, you know all these functions, but when we present the soil mission to other audiences, not everybody knows that apart from having 95% of the food that we eat come from the soil, there are a number of other important ecosystem functions and services that the soil provide, from the biodiversity, and we heard a lot actually from the projects that EJP Soil is funding, to purifying the water, recycling nutrients. We all know that carbon sequestration is also a remedy and mitigation to climate change. And actually also the cultural heritage is supported and it's protected by the soil. So this is what the soil does to us and to society. But on the other side, we all know that it is quite a finite resource. So we don't have that luxury to have plenty of it, and we have to make it sure that we use it in a sustainable way. But unfortunately, there are data showing that 60 to 70% of the soils in Europe actually are unhealthy. And much of the blame, it goes to unsustainable management practices. We lose a lot of surfaces still to urban sprawl, or we call it soil sealing. And obviously also pollution is a big issue still in Europe, and they're all affected by climate change. So these are some of the data that are visible. We still have almost 2.8 million contaminated sites or potentially contaminated sites in Europe, which is quite a large number. And when we talk about this, people maybe are not aware, but this is the legacy of the Industrial Revolution of Europe and many other issues that created this these polluted sites. 65 to 75% of agricultural soils with nutrient inputs are at high level of eutrophication. Some of this excess use of nutrients go into the water bodies and create the problem of eutrophication. Some call that desertification of the water. We're losing carbon. We're still losing carbon, 0.5%. And if you look at the peatlands, in many cases, when they are drained, they lose immediately 50% of the carbon that they have. So you accelerate practically the climate crisis and climate change. 24% is affected by erosion, mostly in the Mediterranean part, but not only, all over. And actually, the desertification is also an issue. Again, mostly in the south and central and eastern part of Europe, 25% is estimated. Actually, for desertification a few years ago was a report of the European Court of Auditors, and they were very critical with the way that actually the EU were dealing with desertification. And if one put all this, how much it costs to European citizens or European Union, there are data that telling some 50 billion euro per year, which is quite a large number. So something has to be done. Now, the supportive framework for soil protection in Europe, as you might know, is improving, and it was said also by the previous speaker, so maybe I don't need to repeat that again, but we're working toward the EU soil strategy. The soil health law was also a public consultation for that, and all bring to the framework that all soils have to be healthy by 2050. And then there is the EU Soil Observatory, the Joint Research Center is dealing with that. They look at soil monitoring, but also is a data reservoir where all the data for European-wide are being collected. And here it comes our mission here, the Soil Deal for Europe, which practically we trying as a member of that board to provide some advice and guidance to the Commission on terms of what type of program for research and innovation have to be implemented in the due course of the mission. Now, the mission supports also this the Green Deal. We all know that the Green Deal has put also very ambitious targets. 25% of the agricultural land has to come out into organic farming by 2030. We hope it will be done. It's not easy, absolutely, but it's, as I said, is an ambitious target. Reduce the overall use of chemical pesticides by 50%. We're using too much for pesticide, and then biodiversity has been also damaged by that. Fertilizers by 20%, nutrient losses by 50%. Microplastics are becoming a big issue. At least 3% of them have to be reduced. I know there are already 2 ongoing projects in that type of research in the EU already. And then reduce the greenhouse gases emission by at least 55% compared to the 90 levels. By 2025, should be climate neutral for the land use, forestry and agriculture. And as we all know, we also had mentioned many times, by 2050, Europe pretend to be the first continent climate neutral. So there are quite a number of ambitious targets, and how to reach to that level. Also, you know that there is this these policies that come from farm to fork, EU biodiversity for 2030, climate adaptation strategy, forest strategy, zero pollution action plan for air, water, and soil, organic action plan, which I mentioned, 25% coming out as organic farming, long-term vision for rural areas, and we have the EU soil strategy for 2030. This has also been discussed for people at my age, at least. I remember that in 2006, we had the EU soil strategy, which we hope that is becoming a soil directive. It never did, it failed at then, but hopefully now it will come to become a directive, and maybe I am absolutely thankful that we have hopefully a soil health law that can meet these targets, and obviously communication on sustainable carbon cycle. So there are a set of policies that are already ongoing. Now, mission has put also very clear objectives, apart from the 100 living labs and lighthouses that I said, and I will briefly describe what we mean by that. These are also what the mission specific objectives would like to reach. Like, for example, reducing desertification that I made. 25% of Southern Europe is affected by desertification. Conserving soil organic carbon and carbon stocks. Stop sealing. We still use, at least a few years ago, was almost 250 hectares per day of soil that was changing the use from agriculture or any other type of use to urban sprawl and infrastructure development. That is unsustainable. Reducing soil pollution and this enhancing restoration, preventing erosion. Erosion, we all know it's a big problem also in Europe. Improve soil structure, enhance soil biodiversity. And there is this goal in here, quite important, this one, because the EU do not pretend to make healthy the soils within the EU and export soil land degradation elsewhere. As we all know, EU also is a net importer of food and food-related products, something like 40%, if not mistaken. So the mission do not intend that we keep our soils good for us and destroy those on the others. So the footprint of the EU have to be also very much taken into consideration. And then this is a very important issue on soil literacy in the society, because the mission would like to reach as many stakeholders and people all over Europe. How the mission will be implemented, you can see there are 4 pillars. A research and innovation program is one very important, where we also advise the Commission on terms of funding for research, and that goes along with knowledge, data, technologies, and infrastructure to support practices and business model for soil health. Then you have the living labs and lighthouses. These have become a cornerstone of the mission, because are the places where you can test, you can verify, and if it works, then it can be disseminated and shown to others maybe are not aware but facing the same problem. So that is more or less in a very short way what is the concept of living labs. And then we have the soil monitoring. As I said, JRC is working towards the soil monitoring system, but it is a very important component of the whole objectives. And then obviously, as I said before, soil literacy, communication, and citizen engagement. We would like that all European citizens become aware on the importance of the soil, on the functions and the services that it provides, and how best it can be preserved for us and for those that will come after us. So the idea is to make this co-implementation of the mission. We have to bring various types of researchers together, from research, land manager, business, private sector. Everybody has a stake, and they can collaborate together with us. Very briefly, what are the living labs and the lighthouses? As you can see, the living labs are core elements of the mission. You test, you try, you verify where this problem is being solved by bringing together farmers, researchers, decision makers, policy makers, a group of people who everybody has a stake. And then once that type of practice has been, as I said, has been tested and validated that it works in there, you have soil salinity, and then there are technologies that have been implemented there. And if they work, then they have to be widely shown also to the others. Instead, lighthouses are a little bit different, but more or less the concept is the same. So they are individual sites, such as single farm, to showcase good practices. Now, there is a timeline in the phase 1, as you can see there, between 20 to 24, we're starting to implement them. Then there is a gradual expansion of the living labs and lighthouses until reaching phase 3 by 2027, when it could be scaling up and mainstreaming. So this is very shortly, very briefly, the concept of why to have the living labs and the lighthouses. This has regard with the soil literacy and communication and engagement. The mission tried to reach from children till researchers, till public at large, citizens, everybody to be aware, because I'm a soil scientist myself, and I I'm not happy to say this, but much of the soil issues are talked between the soil scientists. And outside our network, not everybody is that much aware what the soil is and what the soil does. So we have to engage with them. And there has been a number of events. The Soil Mission has been rather proactive in trying to reach and communicate the message to various type of stakeholders. This is the financing that has been done in the context of the mission. And you can see that the budget is increasing. Now it is something like 126 million. These calls will close, I think, in September this year. They are still open. I'm sure that many people are working to apply for this research program. There are many from carbon farming to various type of calls, very easy to find. You can look, but maybe a bit late, but it's still time to write the proposals. And we are hopeful that the mission will continue, will provide additional support and for further research in the EU. These are some of the links. I will leave the presentation anyway, so people who would like to know more about the mission and all the fact sheets and the newsletters and all the information that is there, it is easy to reach and to find. You simply click into these links and you'll find plenty of information. And I'm closing by actually asking you, you might know that the mission has prepared a manifesto. It's called Soil Mission Manifesto. And it is already being distributed. You can sign as an individual, you can sign as an institution, you can sign as an organization, or whoever is interested in doing that. It is a document that we are trying to also convey the strong message also, not only to the European Commission, but to the European citizens and the communities at large, that finally soil arrived at that level, and we should keep it there also for the upcoming period. So I kindly invite you, if you are not aware of this manifesto, to sign if you feel comfortable with that. Thank you very much.